post.
Oh, go. Hey guys, welcome to Fantasy Effect episode 92. We got some off-season targets for you guys. We have our own free Discord now, Patreon as well. If you guys are interested in that, please DM us on the Twitter or Blue Sky as well. And please like, comment, subscribe to the videos. I got Holler and McSpanky with me. How's it going tonight, guys?
It's going, man. Playoff times. Let's go. Well, for some of us, for other of us, we're in sadness range. I was setting lineups this morning, and there was a league that I was complaining to these guys about earlier, but I was at first in terms of points scored by like over 200 points, but we have like records tied with like me and the two other seeds, and I have like 7 dudes on bye or just got hurt, so I'm probably gonna lose a bye this week, and I'm a little salty about it still. So.
You know, I'm just surprised that the NFL does this. You know, they have to make so much money off of fantasy. It's like, why are we having a week 14 bye? It seems late in my opinion. Just all things considered, not just fantasy wise, but doing well. You know, I was looking at my teams. I actually have quite a few more than I anticipated. In positions to make the playoffs, which is cool to see. I think when I started diving into dynasty fantasy quite a bit more, I think a lot of my teams were in the tanker, and so I think a lot of those teams are coming around, and it's been nice to see.
Mm-hmm. Nice. I got quite a few tankers this year.
I have plenty of tankers as well.
Sometimes it happens, man.
Were these purposeful, or did these just become throughout the year? You're just like
most of them. Most of them. There's one that I really messed up, and I forgot to check if I had my own first before I started trading away some pieces, and then all of a sudden I had like 4 firsts, but none of them were mine. And I said, "Oopsie!"
Oh no!
Well, I mean, there's one where I think I'm just missing the playoffs, and I don't have my first, and I think that one I just lost out on. I think quarterbacks went injured. I can't exactly remember exactly, but yeah, that's a rough one. But most of my tankers, I were kind of going into the season knowing that I was tanking, so it should be on its way. You know, a lot of those have JJ McCarthy, so hopefully some of them have Penix. You know, so.
Oh well, no Penix for me, but JJ McCarthy.
I have like 2.
You're gonna want some Penix in you. Okay?
It's true.
All right,
it's true. How bad Kirk Cousins is
rising?
Right? Yeah.
My worst one was I traded my first to get Jared Goff onto a team so I could have a quarterback 2 because Rashee Rice was just crushing it, and then he proceeded to blow out his ACL that very weekend after I traded the first. So
that sounds about right.
Yeah, I've been teetering in and out of the playoffs there, and it's like one of your situations, McSpanky. Like we all have the same record, and I'm probably just going to take an L because the rest of the guys I'm relying on are just been treading water all year long. So at least it's like the 106, I guess, at the end of the day. So
could be worse.
105. Could be worse. For sure. Should we get into some of this news here?
Let's do it.
Trevor Lawrence got a concussion. He's on IR as well. CMC is to IR / an early grave. Jordan Mason with the high ankle sprain, also on IR. Rashad Bateman has a knee injury. Ladd McConkey, a knee injury. Taysom Hill to the retirement home. Dallas Goedert with a knee injury. Calvin Austin concussion. And Deontay Johnson just sucks. What are the big takeaways here?
The 49ers just losing all their running backs. That team really, I don't know what happened to them, but they have not been the same team. I don't know if like losing consecutive, Super Bowls and late playoff appearances is just taking a toll on them, but they're not doing so well. On the plus side, Isaac Guerrero, he should be good. He was on waivers in a couple of leagues, and I tried to save my season a couple of times, and they just barely got outbid for a few fab dollars, which is unfortunate.
No.
But I think he'll fill in nicely. I think Rashad Bateman, who actually was playing like really well, and apparently Baltimore will just throw to anyone not named Deontay Johnson or give snaps. So, big
We'll get
news
into
for
that.
Nelson Aguilar. Lad McConkey, that one's interesting. I'm curious to see how severe that one is, if he's going to miss the time. The Chargers kind of need him. They don't have a ton of pass catching options, but if he does miss time, Will Dissly's just going to continue to just torch up the field, man. And then the Trevor Lawrence one, that was big. He got put on IR, so I think his season's over. They weren't really playing for anything anyway, so there's no sense rushing him back. That hit was pretty bad. I think that's the second concussion this year. I know this one,
I think it's a second, yeah.
Yeah.
I think agreed with the 49ers. I think the biggest thing overall is they're just hit with injuries. Ayuk, then CMC hasn't played almost all years. I played a couple games. I know Jordan Mason's been good, but it's just overall, like Debo's been out a few times. I just think overall they can't get over that injury bug. And, a lot of times if a lot of your players are injured, it just doesn't matter how good your team is overall. If you're missing some really strong pieces, it's tough. And then the other one for me is like Taysom Hill. He's been like kind of a really nice bright spot in my opinion. I actually just went out and last week I didn't have a tight end, so I went out and bought him. Only bought him for a fourth, which isn't a big deal, but I was like, cool, like some tight end depth. I also had Ferguson and Kincaid, and so those guys are banged up, and it was nice to have Taysom Hill there. So. And then Lad McConkey, man, I'm surprised it's just his knee injury because his back probably hurt a little bit too. Last week he got like 13, 14 targets, and I think he had like almost 11 catches as well. So he's the only one. He had over 100 yards. So I'm hoping he doesn't miss time. That would be pretty big
today.
Yeah, so I think he'll be all right. And then Deontay Johnson, supposedly he wouldn't go in the game. So to me he's just a headache. I'm just surprised
Knucklehead supreme, man.
Yeah, like in my opinion, I'm just surprised the Ravens went out, and I know he was super cheap, but like they're a good organization. That's a good team. Like I don't know why you're adding somebody on that team like that, right? And so I think that's why they're suspending him right away. It's like, hey, you can't do this stuff here with the Baltimore Ravens. So I think his time is almost. I don't think he's going to be useful the rest of the year. And I think he's going to be a free agent. So he's somebody that I think I'm going to stay away from until I can see it again.
Dude, he is a free agent. I don't want anything to do with him. We're talking about earlier today, just like listing off some of these receivers who once they left Pittsburgh, they didn't do anything. Antonio Brown, I mean, he had a nice season in Tampa with Tom Brady, but I mean, Juju kind of had a little bit of time in Kansas City, but overall he's been pretty disappointing. There's a few others. I know Deontay Johnson, Claypool. Thank you.
Well, he's always
Martavis Bryant. I mean, we can go back even further.
Yeah, I mean, I personally thought Deontay Johnson to the Ravens, like, dang, that sounds like a good spot. They have a really good head coach. Blah blah blah. But man, to me, it's just he's got his own issues, and there's a bunch of problems there. And so if you're going to act like that in Baltimore, you're going to get suspensions. You're not going to be on the field. And to me, it's like, why do you not want to get on the field? You have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. Like, come on. So something else is going on there. I'm sure, right?
I'm sure it was. Yeah.
Something else is going on there.
It's a Harbaugh team, man. Like, wide receivers got to go out there and block.
So
you got to block to get the rock.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a bummer, but maybe Aguilar is alive again because if Bateman doesn't play, but then our gadget man himself, he should be good for this weekend. So he's been really good the last couple of weeks, or even since I called him a gadget guy, he's been really good.
He's always been fine. It's just
No, that was like not really a diss, other than just the way they use him.
I think you called him a good gadget guy in your defense.
I did.
All right. Should we get into some of these off-season targets we have?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. McSpank, you want to kick us off? I think this is your guy, right?
Yeah, Chase Brown is a guy listed. So, I mean, since Zach Moss got hurt in week 8.
Wait. Can you say his name one more time?
Oh, you sicko. I thought for a minute I messed something up, and then you're just going to get me to talk nice about Chase Brown again. I know. You called Chase Brown in the offseason. That's good.
I wish there
call.
was no injury involved in it happening. I do. I feel bad for Zach Moss, but go ahead. Sorry.
You bastard. So Chase Brown has been awesome. In the last 4 weeks, he's been a running back 4, running back 3, 8, and 9. I think so. One of the reasons I wanted to call him out as a potential target or a stash is, and this actually got brought up in our Discord just today, is there's a lot of discussion about, well, Chase Brown was only, drafted in the 5th round. Sometimes those guys are easily replaced. If you go back and kind of look at the history of guys drafted after the 3rd round, they're staying in the NFL. It doesn't bode well for them. I think Kyron Williams and him are some of the ones that have gotten a little bit of run. For the most part, everyone else kind of fades after a year or two. So there's a little bit of uncertainty there. But I think where I've kind of leaned is that, so Mike Gesicki and T. Higgins are both free agents. They're probably both out the door. They have offensive line problems. Their defense is a mess. I don't think the Bengals are in a position to take another running back. They still have Zach Moss under contract for another year. They do have an out, but I would imagine that they bring him back and they run it back with Chase Brown and Zach Moss, where Chase Brown is kind of the lead guy. So I think you're going to get another year out of him. So the way I was kind of looking at him is right now, I think if you're trying to acquire him, he might already be on a team that's kind of competing. So you might have to wait until the offseason. But then I think as some of the draft rumors start to kick up and, people talk about how the Bengals might take a running back, that might drive some of his value down. You might be able to get a discount in the offseason because people are worried that he's not going to be the guy again and kind of forget how good he's been. So this is one to kind of keep in the back of your mind until free agency kind of kicks around and see if you can get yourself some Chase Brown before the NFL draft.
I like that. And I did respond to some of that talk in the Discord, and I actually, have seen a few times and kind of when we talked about it last week, the Bengals was one that kind of popped in my mind. Not necessarily because Chase Brown is not good or whatever, but I think he's more of a 1A, 1B guy. And so with how deep the running back class is, I think they could get themselves a nice running back piece. And, when I said it, wasn't certain that Zach Moss was under contract. And so, maybe they don't bring him back. And even if they do bring in another running back, it's not going to be, a 1st, 2nd, even 3rd round running back, in my opinion. It's going to be later, one of those other guys, and, Chase Brown is going to be the 1A. And I don't even know if they were to draft somebody, there would be a 1B. So I really, really like that call out. And like you said, I think a lot of times he was maybe somebody that the last couple weeks, a team that was pushing for the playoffs or one that was already solidified in the playoffs, that maybe somebody that went out and got him. I just pulled up some trades and he's trading pretty light. I just pulled up one from today, Chase Brown for 225 seconds, Cooper Rush and Chase Brown for a 1st. So for me, that's just Chase Brown for a 1st. And if I'm in spot for 111, 112, in my opinion, obviously the playoffs are still happening, but even if I'm 108 to 112, if I feel my team's probably going to make the semis, I'm okay sending that away. And, we dove into the 25 players last week and, after 101 and 102, after that, for me, it's all going to depend on where people land. And so for me, I'm okay taking Chase Brown because I think next year he's going to be solid, and so I would kick the tires and see what you can get for him, especially if you're already going into the playoffs. Here's one more, Jerry Jeudy, Chase Brown for Jonathan Brooks and Chris Olave. To me, I really, really like that. Chris Olave, in my opinion, is kind of going down. Jonathan Brooks, we've seen it. He's played well. When he played last week, he had a couple of really good touches. And I think, in my opinion, Jonathan Brooks might be a guy that on a non-competitive team you could go out and maybe buy because people are worried of Chuba getting a 2nd contract and whatever. And then Jerry Jeudy has been awesome the last couple of weeks. So, this might have been a little too much for me to sell away with Chris Olave and Jonathan Brooks just because I think Chris Olave is a lot better than Jerry Jeudy overall. But
that's where I got caught up on that one.
Yeah. But, with the quarterback with the Saints and whatever, if you're really trying to make a push here, Jerry Jeudy's been really good. And, he's the de facto wide receiver one. And I know Tillman's been good, but in my opinion, Judy's better than Cedric Tillman. So, that one is kind of like a coin flip. It seems like a little bit too much, but maybe Jonathan Brooks is nothing. But I think otherwise. But, Chase Brown's been good.
Yeah, I think I still like Jonathan Brooks over Chase Brown.
Yep.
But to your point that you made about if you don't have the trade deadline yet and you're kind of in the playoffs and looking to make a push, like I have no qualms sending your first to help with Chase Brown. I think he might potentially be a league winner. I do think of the offseason probably get him cheaper just because there's already been so many. I've already seen mocks, of people trying to have Cincinnati taking a running back, and I think that chatter will just pick up more and more, especially if Cincinnati doesn't pick up a Zach Moss, because they do have an out in his contract for next year. I do think if they do take a running back, it's to replace Zach Moss. It's not Chase Brown.
Exactly what I was going to say. And there's so many holes. Like if you just watch their defense, it's bad. Their offensive line, they've had injuries, but overall their offensive line is not good. So they have a lot of holes there. And if T. Higgins walks, I know Jermaine Burton's there and whatever, but they're going to need a wide receiver as well. And so there's a lot of holes there. Yeah. So for me, I just don't think they're, like you said, in a spot to take a top running back. And so Chase Brown's going to be that guy.
Yeah, I hope so, man. I got all my Chase Brown and rookie drafts, dude. It was
Love
so
that.
exciting. Yeah,
Ron's sitting here just like, man, I've been on Chase Brown for 2 years.
I've been waiting for this day.
I didn't put him on the sheet here, but one other running back, I think, because you brought up Kyren Williams, one other running back I think people could go out and buy is Blake Corum. I think he's going to get put in a little bit more. And I know I think it's going to be like a 1A, maybe a little bit of 1B situation. Kyron's going to be back, and might just be a little bit of my homer in me, but he's going to be cheap. He hasn't done much, but I do think next year Blake Corum's going to get more run. As we saw like last week, I think just going to be a little bit more. When he ran last week, he looked pretty darn good. I think that's where I'm coming from. And so, I just think that might be one to kind of look at if you're out of it and, looking to get pieces. And if you're moving, see about trying to get him.
Yeah, Blake Corum's it's hard because Sean McVay doesn't play his rookies like hardly ever, right? I mean, Puka's probably the biggest exception to that. His running backs, Kyron sat his first year too, and he sat behind a bunch of, no ones in LA just because I don't know if it's like a pass pro thing or like Stafford doesn't want him on the field, or if it's just like there's a lot to learn in the offense. But those rookies just hardly ever get on the field. He did start getting a little bit more run this last week, which is interesting. And to your point, he did look good. I do think Kyron probably shouldn't be getting as many carries as he is, because I think he's kind of started to slow down a little bit. Like he's still been good, but I think he could benefit from not carrying 95% of the team's touches.
Sure.
And that's kind of what I mean. And but the hard part is I don't know what you would want to.
Like, what would you spend to get him?
Exactly. But for me, if you're, I don't know, if say somebody, we'll talk about him in a little bit, but if you're selling a Bucky Irving, if you could get a first and Blake Corum, I'm thinking more of as a throw in a little bit.
Sure.
So I think a lot of people are down on Blake Corum, but to your point, like you said, I think he's going to get put in a little bit more because I think they want to keep Kyron, and they want, I think they're going to be a better team with two running backs than just Kyron. And I think with Stafford getting a little bit older, we don't know for sure if he's coming back, whatever. But I just think, in my opinion, that Blake Corum is just a good running back to go out for, and you can buy him for cheap.
Mm-hmm. For sure. He's basically the new version of Kyren Williams, maybe a little bit faster. Right?
Yeah,
that was kind of his. Oh, it was almost his comp coming out of school too. Yeah. I do think Kyron's a better pass catcher.
And he was, he was drafted in the third. I know, Sean McVay doesn't play his rookies, and so I think that's part of it. But there might be some people that really believe in him, but I'm sure others are like, get this guy off my team. He hasn't even been playing. The next running back class is deep. But for me, he was drafted in the third. He's on a good team. So those are the type of guys I think you can go out and buy.
Is it possible though that he's just another Zach Charbonnet, Tank Bigsby, where it's like he's going to be great if Kyron gets hurt, but otherwise he's just kind of like, well, he's just taking up the bench spot.
So
That's why you get him as a throw-in, though.
I do think it as a throw-in, but I also think, this might be a little bit of a hot take, but I think Ken Walker's better than Kyron, right? Ken Walker, I think, in my opinion, is like an everyday back, every down back, and so in my opinion, Kyron's starting to run down a little bit. So that's kind of where I'm coming from. So and again, Kyron was drafted in the 5th. They can move on very, very quickly, and so that's the word I kind of have a hard time though is I don't know what I would go out and buy Blake Corum for, right? I think of it as like a throw in, what. I don't think so because I don't know. Like,
well, you could get a late second. Roman Wilson.
That's true, right? And so the problem is though, like, if I'm spending a late second, my team's probably good. I'm not going to use him. So that's something that you would do in the offseason.
What if you're the Kyron manager?
Yeah, I would. I would send a late second.
Cuff your guy and just forget about it. Set it and forget it.
Yeah, I would do that.
You guys
I wouldn't spend any more than in a second. What?
You guys cuff guys. I said it kind of tongue in cheek, but I also did have a valid question there because I know for a while it felt like when I first got into fantasy, everyone was like, "Oh, make sure you draft your handcuffs." But I feel like that's maybe less of a thing now. But I don't know. Do you guys prioritize like your top running backs? Like, do you prioritize getting the backup?
No, the only place I kind of do that would be is like redraft. But as you can see here with the 49ers, who would have known that like you need to have Jordan Mason and Garendo, right? And so I don't think that's a thing. I think I'd rather draft a player that has some upside versus just being like, okay, let me get this running back handcuff that if the other running back gets injured, then I'll be able to use him. And you never know if that's going to be the case, if they're going to be good when they're the priority back.
For sure. Yeah. The hope is that they were good. I think I won't say that like I'm a handcuff guy. Like I actively go out and seek trying to get my handcuffs so I can just drop them right in. But if I am in a trade negotiation with somebody and I do notice that he has like, the Tank Bigsby to Travis Etienne, the Corum to Kyron, the Charbonnet to my Kenneth Walker, or something like that, I may try to, get that guy tossed in there just because I know that few spot starts here or there, as long as the price is cheap enough and they don't, try to gouge me on the thing.
Yeah, and I was just looking up Blake, like there's only been 74 total trades, and it's like he's just a throw-in. Like here's one for Bucky Irving, Blake Corum for a first, and a third for Bucky Irving. That's just Blake Corum's a throw-in right now. We'll wait to talk about Bucky a little bit later, but like Blake Corum for Will Dissly, if I got Will Dissly off of waivers and I'm not in the playoffs, I will move Will Dissly for Blake Corum, right? So like there's just things that I think he's a solid guy to maybe look for in a throw-in. If you're making moves right now and you're out of the playoffs, people are looking for some of your point scorers. I was going to talk about a couple tight ends in a little bit that these guys just can ask for as well as throw-ins.
That Bucky Irving trade made me a little sad because I traded him just straight up for a single 25 first just earlier this week. Should have gotten myself a free Blake Corum.
That's what I mean, right? So those are the type of things that like you can try to, especially with him being kind of down and like people not, most people are like Kyron Williams is the running back one and blah, blah, blah. But I personally think Blake Corum's going to get more run. They're going to use him a little bit more. And I'm not saying that's going to like that Kyron's going to be overtaken or anything, but I just think they're going to use him more.
I could see it. I do think he'll get a little more run. And Kyron, this is 2 years now where he's just getting just insane volume.
Yeah.
I mean, he's gotten over 200 rush attempts already, like 222. I think that's third in the NFL right now behind Derrick Henry and Saquon.
And
Louise.
Kyron had a big fumble in week 12, so I think
active punt return duties from Kyron.
Yeah, special teamer for sure. Did Sean McVay learn nothing about Todd Gurley? Jeez Louise, I thought he told us that he had learned from that.
Well, that's another thing is like how the Rams, go on with their running backs is like, I know
they do it to their wide receivers too, apparently.
Everything. Like I think Whittington is a nice stash as well. Like somebody just keep on your bench. Don't move him. Like if Cooper Kupp goes on, I think Whittington.
Good luck finding any. I got him on all my rosters. Okay.
All right. Speaking of wide receiver,
Chase Brown. Yeah, let's do it. Ron still plays what the coaches say. I just want to know if Sean learned anything. Come on, Wes. Anyway, so my guy that I put on here was Romeo Doubs. It's kind of gross. It's kind of disgusting for two reasons. One, because he's a Packer, so that's just gross to begin with. FTP. But also, like, he's just like a solid.
I got it.
Yeah. He's just a solid player. 10 points per game with the upside of 20 points per game. And, we play in some pretty deep leagues where we're starting 10, 11, 12 guys across some of these leagues. And, it'd be nice. I know he's hurt this week, but it'd be nice on a bye week like this to have 10 points you could plug into your flex or even your wide receiver 3 spot, just for the week and be like, all right, it's going to be there for me. Because he's been pretty consistent. And, if the touchdowns are there, he's got some spike weeks in there. He's not overly expensive, and kind of along the same things we were just talking with Blake Corum there. Like, you can get Romeo Doubs just thrown in because of he's just a solid flex play. He's nothing more than that. I saw Hunter Henry traded for Romeo Doubs multiple times on Dynasty Daddy. Noah Gray, Romeo Doubs in a 26 fourth for a 26 second and a 27 second. Sutton and Judy for Doubs, 25 first and 225 thirds. What do you guys think about these trades?
So, I mean, for Hunter Henry, yeah, absolutely give it to me. Dude, Romeo Doubs, like him being hurt this week, I was already not feeling great about having to start him. And then when he got hurt and I had to sub him out for like the likes of like Sterling Shepard and like worser wide receivers, made me feel sad. So, I mean, Romeo Doubs, to your point, he is a nice guy to have kind of on your your bench.
Just
he's second on the team in targets right now.
Yeah.
And on a good passing offense. He does only have 2 touchdowns this year, which both incidentally came in the same game, oddly enough. So he hasn't been like overly consistent this year. He's kind of had some issues. Part of that's just like I don't think Jordan Love has been all the way healthy this year either. I think he's still got some issues he's dealing with. The Packers have just kind of been a little bit funky in their passing game just in general, but I think that's less a Doubs thing and more just like a Packers thing. Dude, I mean, for like probably like a third gets it done, right? Like, don't you think? Like if you spend your 25 third, like whether early, mid, late, I think that probably gets it done, and like you're gonna at least get some points on it. Whereas like rookie third, you might be able to start them, but they might not be anything. Especially if you wait till the offseason too, where like the rookie hype gets going, like you could probably like if someone's on the clock kind of like in the 305, or you're on the clock in the 305 and you're just like, maybe I'll see if someone wants to send me Romeo Doubs for this pick.
Sure.
That's something that I think you get done a lot during rookie drafts. So that's another name just kind of keep in the back of your mind. It's like, hey, this is a guy that I could take a lottery ticket on a 3rd round pick, or I could just get someone who I know, it's not going to win me a league, but he's a nice little depth piece in case an injury happens, or I could buy him again like this week. So yeah, that's a good call out.
I love it, especially because as I've been working on my rookie rankings and stuff, it's just like after Tet and Luther Burden, even Igbuka's kind of like, I don't love him, but like after that, there's the wide receivers there's not really. There's a couple of guys that could be really good, but they have to land at the perfect spot. And so we know where Romeo Doubs is playing. We know he's playing with Jordan Love. I would send a third for him, especially on the offseason all day, right? Because I know what the production I'm going to get from Romeo Dobbs. I don't know what I'm going to get in that third round. Maybe I'll get a tight end that could do something. Maybe I'll get a running back that could do something. Obviously this year we had a Tyrone Tracy. We had a couple other guys in the third round that have been solid, but those are lottery tickets. And so with Romeo Dobbs, we know what we're getting. He's still young, only going to be in his third year. And I think he is, wide receiver 2, 3 on that team. We could say he's number 3 after Christian Watson, but Christian Watson can't stay healthy. I know this year Romeo Dobbs has been injured. He had a suspension or whatever. But to me, he's a solid player, and like you said, he's a really good guy to have on your team as a flex option or a buy option. So yeah, my dog didn't like my take there.
He's a Packers hater.
Yeah, seriously. But I know he's only had 2 touchdowns. But if you look at his stats, he gets 50, 70, 90, 50, 60, 50. He gets the yards. And so to have that in your flex spot, I think that's solid. With an option of him possibly getting a touchdown, like you said, 10 to 20 points. Right. Boom. So if I can get him for a third, I'm doing that.
Like I said too, it was just last year he went for 900 yards and 9 touchdowns. So it's not like it's unheard of for him to be even better. It's just this year he just hasn't been good, and in a large part, Jaden Reed hasn't been as good, either, and a lot of these guys just haven't. It's just the whole offense, and maybe it's because Josh Jacobs is running the ball better than they have in previous years. That might be part of it, but.
I like this. Yeah. So Wes, I totally get what you're saying. And I think I brought up a really good person, Tyrone Tracy, right? He's somebody that he's been a solid running back too, right? There's some weeks he's been in the back end of the running back 1 conversation. So there are tons of people that would prefer that lottery ticket, and so I think this is something that can get done, right? If you can send a third for Romeo Dobbs, it's going to be 50-50 of people that want the lottery ticket and the people want Romeo Dobbs. Because I get what you're saying. Romeo Dobbs is easily replaceable, but for what we're saying is that he's a solid bench piece that you can put in for your bye weeks, or if you have a deeper starting roster, starting 4 wide receivers, 3 flex, whatever it is, you can do worse.
Yeah.
But to your point, though, for every Tyrone Tracy, there's Jalen McMillan was going in the 3rd round this last year. Trey Franklin was going in the 3rd round this last year. Theo Johnson, who's he was more going in the 2nd. Michael Wilson, Jalen Wright, those are all 3rd round guys that people are all stoked about, right? So it's easy to talk yourself into I remember when I hit this 3rd round pick. And yeah, it does happen, but for the most part, they suck, and you're not going to get any usage out of them. That's where I guess you kind of have to it's where you're at, right? And yes, Dobbs he's not a great NFL receiver, but here's the thing: the coaching staff and Jordan Love both like him, which I think goes a long way.
So that's kind of what I was saying is we know what team Romeo Dobbs is on, and we know what quarterback he's with, right? Those things aren't changing. So that's but with the lottery ticket, we don't know where they're ending up, so I think before the draft, it's something I would do, but if I know the landing spots and things like that, then my tune might change a little bit, but to me, he's a solid guy to go out and try to get for a third.
Definitely. I obviously agree. I put him on there. That was my pick. Holler, who you got here?
I got Cortland Sutton. This is more of if you're a playoff team, go out and buy him now. I do know he's had a couple really good. The last couple games have been really good, but we talked about it before the show. He is under contract, 29, so a little bit older. So for me, he's a guy that in the offseason, if you're doing startups, somebody you can get late and you're going to feel good about him because he has a really good rapport with Bo Nix, and he's playing a wide receiver 1 right now. So I'm going to pull up some trades here just because I was wondering, and he's trading a ton, 265 trades right now. Josh Downs and a 25 third for Cortland Sutton. I picked this one because Wes, I know how much you love Josh Downs. So I'm taking Cortland Sutton. Bo Nix is a much, much better quarterback than Anthony Richardson. Hot take or not, I don't think it is, especially with you guys. So I'm taking Cortland Sutton.
Hold on. I was reading Wes's comment in the chat about Dubs and over MBS, and I was thinking of a reply. Did you say you were taking Cortland Sutton over Josh Downs?
I am.
Yeah, he did. He did.
That's interesting.
Oh, boy. Oh,
Going down a path I can't follow.
That's fine. That's fine. I mean, I'll pull up Cortland Sutton's stats here, right? And he's tied to.
I get what you're saying.
He's tied to Bo Nix, and Josh Downs is, with Anthony Richardson. That's kind of where I'm at there.
So I get that.
But overall, okay, we'll get some more trades here. A second and a fourth for Cortland Sutton. Smash Cortland Sutton there. So for me, he's attainable. A second for Cortland Sutton. And I'm gonna pull up his stats here, and it's been awesome.
So I'm still stuck on the Josh Downs thing. I can't let it go. Okay, so Downs, he's only 23, so you're giving up like 6 years there. And Josh Downs,
yeah.
Like I know Richardson's been bad, and I've crapped on Anthony Richardson more than probably all three of us, but he's been fine. Downs has been fine the last 5 weeks. I mean, this last week was a little bad against Detroit, but I guess that's also Detroit has a good defense or a good team.
He got knocked out too.
Are you ready for Cortland Sutton's last 6 games?
Hit me with it.
7 for 122, 6 for 70, 7 for 78, 8 for 97, 6 for 102.
Okay. All right. Let me hit you with Josh Downs' last 5. 4 for 109 and a touch, 6 for 60, 7 for 72, 5 for 84 and a touch.
And then he was injured,
3
right?
for 27 in the injured game.
Yeah.
So
close. It's very close. I don't know. I just have never been that high on Josh Downs, which is fine. I mean, but I think to me they're very I know the age difference is big, but they're close in my opinion. And the difference for me is I know Pittman's been injured. I know some people might not think that Pittman is the wide receiver 1 there. I think he is, and Sutton is the wide receiver 1 in Denver. And without them going out and either signing or drafting a wide receiver outside of Vele is their number 2. Like, come on.
No, I'm with you on that. I think you can get Sutton for cheaper. I don't think you have to pay Josh Downs to get him.
Yeah.
I think you can get Sutton for
know what
late
Wes
2
loves
or like an early
Josh
3.
Downs. Yes, that is kind of what I was thinking. That's fine. But yeah, like plenty of trades here that were like the one I said earlier, second and a fourth. Elijah Moore, a second and a third for Cortland Sutton. So yeah, it's basically trading it for like a second and a third. There's so many here that I've seen for a second, and I would do that in a heartbeat.
Dude, I pulled up a Cortland Sutton in the Dynasty trade database, and he got traded straight up for Chris Olave.
That's too much. That's too much for me. Yeah, that's too much for me.
For Cortland Sutton, Chris Olave?
Yeah, that's too much for me. And yeah, Wes, they're about a tier apart for him, Wes says. And, I just think with Sutton being that wide receiver 1, there's a little more upside in my opinion. I know Josh Downs has been really good this year. So maybe he is that wide receiver 1A and 1B, with Michael Pittman and with everybody healthy and another year for Richardson.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll be on the losing side of if I'm trading Sutton for Downs, but I think they're pretty close.
I think it's just the age gap thing. I think production is fairly similar, and I do feel more confident that Cortland Sutton can keep his production up over Josh Downs, especially if Pittman's all the way healthy. Or say the Colts draft like a Colson Loveland or a Tyler Warren,
or if they do if they ever get a tight end.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
We can also make that argument for the Broncos too. They're putting out their I don't know if Trotman's the guy or whatever, but he's not the guy moving forward. They need a tight end.
No, they're
so
for sure. So,
but overall, I think you're basically trading at a second right now. I think you could get you can get him pretty cheap. And in the offseason, if you're doing a startup,
Exactly.
you're going to get him in the 8 to 10, 8 to 12 round
You're going to
8
get
to 12 range.
Sutton probably a couple of rounds later than Josh Downs because in Dynasty offseason, people see, oh, Josh Downs is only 23. Bet. And they see Cortland Sutton 29, they're going to go, I don't want that. I don't think I want this. And so that's where you can start getting trades for vets super cheap in the offseason because people aren't setting their lineups at that point, right? They're just looking at, okay, how does my team look? Or, they plug their team in a Dynasty Daddy and they see, Cortland Sutton's age and they see his little value number goes down because he's getting older. But when lineups come around, that's the kind of guy you're going to want in your lineup. And I think, whether you're sitting a late 2 or an early 3, maybe even for Cortland Sutton when he's 29 in the middle of June, that's when you can start getting some nice deals.
So that's kind of where I'm coming from. And if you're in the playoffs right now, you might need to add to that second because it's a late second. But if I was just saying to buy Blake Corum, but I was more buying him on a down team. But like Blake Corum in a second for Cortland Sutton is probably going to get done.
That's more than I want to pay, but I get what you're saying. If I can do a 2 and a 3 for Sutton, 2 and a 3 that's what I want to do.
I paid a 2 for Sutton, actually from Holler in a league.
Did you?
Yep.
Yeah,
I sold Sutton
where you wouldn't trade me JMO. That's that.
I love Cortland Sutton, and I sold him, but he's
the price on JMO.
Yeah, I'm not paying it.
I had 2 other guys.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Kind of digging deep in the bag here, but Ben Sinnott and Theo Johnson. Ben Sinnott was the tight end, I think the second tight end most of the time off the board in rookie drafts last year, and he's done kind of nothing this year. Zach Ertz, I believe, is not under contract next year.
Don't needs to be in a retirement home.
So I think next year Ben Sinnott is going to be the guy in Washington. We know how good Jaden Daniels is. So I think it's somebody that you can maybe look to acquire very, very cheaply. Just a guy that could maybe be thrown in, kind of like my Blake Corum. He's going to be even cheaper. And then Theo Johnson. Theo Johnson is on IR. He was playing well before he went on IR. So I just think these 2 tight ends are somebody that you can go out and get very, very cheaply. And looking at my rookies outside of Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren, there's a lot of question marks at tight end coming in next year. And we know how rookie tight ends coming in, they're not really they don't do much most of the time. So we've been very fortunate the last couple of years with some really, really good tight ends. I think Loveland is up there as well. But depending on where he lands, he could not be super great. But I do think Ben Sinnott, he is also a really, really good blocker. And I've talked about it with tight ends. When they're good at blocking, they're going to stay on the field.
I think so. I think Sinnott he's a guy, I really liked him pre-draft. He just hasn't really been on the field. And I think some of it.
Yep. It's because Zach Ertz.
Sometimes they take time, right? And Zach Ertz, I just pulled him up, right? He had a 1-year deal, so he's gone. They can always bring him back, but I mean, he's pretty old. Let's see. He's 34. He'll be 35 next year.
Pretty old and crushing it.
He is. Well, so basically, these are 2 guys that I think are in a good spot and could do well, and we know the landscape of tight ends. So they're going to be super, super cheap. And, these are guys you can look for in the offseason, and they're cheap.
I'll tell you right now.
I like it a lot.
You won't catch me with any Sinnott. Somebody said H-back is when he played at Kansas State. And you have them all, that's fine. You can keep them. Somebody said H-back, and I was out at that point. So,
that's fine.
Yeah. I couldn't do it. He flashed a little bit in the preseason, and then I started to regret it a little bit. And then, he's seemingly completely disappeared.
Just give him a little bit. I think he'll get better.
Yep.
Some of these guys, they'll take a minute.
I mean, I can't argue with you. He's done nothing. He's got 21 yards on the year. He hasn't done anything. So
and a touchdown.
And a touchdown, yes. But
did he recover a fumble in the end zone?
No.
He scored against the Carolina Panthers.
Oh God! So he recovered a fumble in the end zone. No.
Still
Oh
counts.
man, it does. It does. You gotta count it. You gotta count it. Okay.
Let's hit on a couple of these dynasty movers here.
Yeah.
I think maybe the big one is let's hit on Bucky Irving.
Yeah. So Bucky, this kind of came up the other day. Is he a top 12 running back? And he's running back 11 on KTC and 13 on Fantasy Cal. Because and this kind of started too because I got a trade offer for him and I was like kind of debating it. So I sold him for a team that is currently in 6th place in the playoffs, and they kind of need a running back to make the playoffs. And so it's a French team. I'm hoping they're a first round exit. We'll see. But so I shipped him off straight up for what I'm hoping is a 107, 108. But I'm curious, like, do you think Bucky Irving is worth more? Do you think he's a top 12 running back? And is he a top 12 running back now, but then when guys like Ashton Genty and, Omarion Hampton and some of these other running backs come in next year, does he bump back down to maybe like 15, 16, somewhere in that range?
Yeah, so go ahead, Ron.
What I see right now is the rookies definitely are going to push him down the second they are drafted or we start seeing the names a little bit more here. But what I'm looking at right now is like from 10 on is kind of like just a giant tier of you could kind of talk me into anybody from like running back 10 on right now. So I could see why people have Bucky Irving that high, especially if he's producing, points wise. But like, I don't think he can go any higher than like that 10 spot. I mean, that's me and a little bit of Kenneth Walker love, but
that's fair.
Bucky's been super good the last couple of weeks.
He has.
And they even are like Rachaad White's getting some touches as well. So,
right.
I was looking at it as well. The highest I could go with him was 12, and that means I bumped down my boy Brian Robinson. So, but for me, Brian Robinson like
12. Sorry.
Yeah, I know I'm crazy, but yeah. Go look at his points, man. But for me, I can not really put like that's as high as I'll put Bucky, and then once those rookie running backs come in, he's going to drop down a little bit, right? And so this is like to your point, Ron, is like 10 to 20. There's a ton of guys right there that could be mishmashed all together. You can't argue anybody for 10 through 20, and Brian Robinson is in that.
He is in that giant tier of players.
Yeah.
So is David Montgomery.
Yep.
Just in case anybody was wondering.
Yep,
he's not my running back 12. But yeah, the Bucky Irving conundrum. He's been efficient. I don't like the touches, so I know it's right there with HN, and I know he had a slow start to the season, so that's his average is probably a little bit lower than what it should be on the season. I'm just looking at a season overview. I don't have like game by game breakdowns of that. But yeah, I don't know.
He's got 3 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks. He's gotten 13, 12, 24 carries the last 3 weeks. He's been getting like 3 to 6 catches there in that time span too. Like he has been picking up more and more. He's definitely like if you watch them, like Rachaad White looks fine, but Bucky looks really good. It's probably the nicest way I can say that. Like I think Rachaad White is still a good running back. I just think Bucky Irving, I think, might be a special running back. But he's also a little bit smaller. He's on the smaller side too. So it's like he carried a bunch last week. But I mean, did you guys see the video of him walking to the locker room? Like, dude put his body on the line that game. Like, I don't think they can get away with giving him the rock that many times. So I think that might have been like a special case, not a norm thing. I think he might go back to like the 10 to 15 touches a game, whether that's like 12 carries and 3 catches, instead of 24 touches and 3. I mean, he had 27 total touches last week, which is just awesome. Lord. But I think his body took it. I don't think it's built for that week after week.
No, probably not. He was a smaller guy. I remember watching the tape.
Wes said he'll trade me Sutton and B-Rob for Downs and Bucky.
I mean, give me Downs and Bucky, but that's That's me. Holler, I know you want your boy Brian Robinson. I know you can't stop yourself.
You could talk me into either one here. You really could.
Yeah, there's both like those are like that's a solid trade in my opinion. The age is all on Downs and Bucky's side though.
Yeah, but if you're competing right now and Downs is not playing right now, I could talk myself into the Sutton B Rob side. This is kind of where is how I'm looking at it.
If you're doing that trade in the offseason though,
I'm going to take Downs and Bucky.
Right.
Yeah. I would as well.
Easily.
So,
do you guys want to talk about Michael Penix?
We can just quickly, then we can get into our charts of the week. This kind of stemmed from a conversation in the Discord today that Kirk Cousins has been awful for about 3 weeks now, and people kind of having a question about whether if he continues to play this bad, do we see Michael Penix at some point? I kind of lead of the opinion that until the Falcons are out of playoff contention, we don't see Michael Penix play, and there's some debate about whether or not he would potentially get a start next year, which I also don't think. But I wanted to bring it up for you guys to see. And he's up at quarterback 21 right now on Keep Trade Cut, which felt a little high.
Yes, B-Rob is playing, and he had 100 yards last week. Yeah, so we'll stay on Michael Penix. I just don't think that unless, like you said, unless the Falcons are out of it, they gave so much money to Kirk Cousins. I don't think they're going to flip the script off of one bad game. So I just think
it's been a couple.
It's going to take it's been a couple, yeah. It's going to take a little more, and they're still in it, right? They can still win their division.
They're tied for the division right now.
Yeah. So I just think with the amount of money they gave, I know they drafted Michael Penix in the top 10, but there's been a lot of talk I've seen on X and Blue Sky about. Should they just go to Michael Penix? And, they drafted him in the top 10 for a reason. I'm not one that thinks Michael Penix should have been drafted in the top 10. So I think Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback. And I think, they're going to be in a better position if they have Kirk Cousins playing.
I brought this up too. The only quarterback drafted in the first round since 2020 who scored lower for me in my analytics model is than Michael Penix was Anthony Richardson. So I don't think overly highly of Michael Penix.
Yeah,
and I think the film matched that too. He's wildly inconsistent. His accuracy, like his arm strength, is great. Like he can sling the ball. That was never a question. It's just the accuracy is.
And I know some of the
to be desired.
Jalen Polk and Jalen McMillan haven't done really anything in the NFL, but that offense was really, really good. Their offensive coordinator was really, really good.
Giles Jackson, baby.
So I just think overall they had a lot of good pieces, and I don't think it's going to really translate into the NFL for Michael Penix.
Not to turn it into a Michael Penix huge college conversation, but they also played the only defensive they played, and it was Oregon basically.
Yep.
And then Michigan, who shut them down pretty good. So
yeah. God, Washington.
They beat Texas, didn't they, to get into the?
Yeah, they did.
Subject defense for sure, but it's not the greatest.
I believe Texas's defense, like the defensive backs, were like ranked as like something in like the lowest.
I said subject defense there as well, but
the D line had a bunch of good players on it. But once you got
the secondary was questionable.
Why couldn't I think of secondary? Good Lord.
Wes was asking if B-Rob is playing. Yes, B-Rob is playing, and Eckler is on IR.
You saw that question. You immediately had to jump to his defense. He had over 100 yards. Saved my
103 touchdown, baby.
Oh man!
All right, should we do some starts of the week real quick?
Yeah. Start Brian Robinson. Done.
It's the only start you need. All your starting spots. B-Rob,
all day, baby.
if Holler could have a team of B-Robs, he'd have a team of B-Robs.
I
We
would.
start a multi-copy league with like.
I
30
expect to
copies.
have a ton of B-Rob trades in my inbox here.
You can't because you have them everywhere. You can't get them.
So you already have them all.
You got
to trade yourself.
I might just to say I got some more Brian Robinson
for a premium.
All right, go ahead,
okay,
Ron.
All right, it was like it just seemed like a tough week for me to choose like some really random people to throw in here. You guys did much better, but mine are the basic guys. Joe Burrow gets Dallas. Joe Burrow's been lighting the world on fire. Surprise, surprise. And he gets the Dallas defense. So fire him on up.
Fire him up. Yeah, I actually have moved. It was a couple weeks ago. But I moved Joe Burrow back up to my number 4.
Yeah. It's almost like he's good at football. Well. It's weird.
Yeah, crazy, right? Mine is ugly. Aiden O'Connell. He was actually solid last week. I know it was gross, but he's throwing to Brock Bowers. That's going to help you, and he's throwing to Jacoby Myers. And then he gets the Bucs this weekend, who have a really subject secondary. So I just think, a lot of people are needing some. With we got a couple guys on IR, couple guys on bye. I think AOC is going to be all right in your QB2 spot.
Yeah, I actually almost picked AOC as my start of the week, and then I was like, I don't want these guys to call me a homer, so then I stopped. So then I chose Cooper Rush, who equally sucks, but is getting a good defense. So he's playing against the Bengals this week, who we just touched on. Can't stop anybody. And Cooper Rush, I mean, they're letting the dude sling it. A couple weeks ago, he threw for like 50 pass attempts. They're letting him throw the ball around the yard, partly because they don't run the ball all that effectively. He was QB 18 and 11 2 of the last 3 weeks, so I mean, what the heck? It's just the playoffs on the line. Why don't you leave it in the hands of Cooper Rush? See what happens.
Let's go.
Yeah. I like it. I got Aaron Jones versus Atlanta. No real specific reasons why here. I just think it's an Aaron Jones type of week.
Yep. Vibes, baby. Vibes, baby. Vibes. I got Tony Pollard. I know I'm not digging too deep, but he gets a really, really nice matchup against the Jaguars. He's been awesome. I know last week wasn't great, but the whole Titans offense sucked last week. So he gets a nice matchup. The Jags are giving up the second most fantasy points to running backs. And then he also, little FYI, he gets the Jags again in the fantasy championship game in week 17.
Ooh, bonjour. That's a good one. I got on the other backfield in that same game. Looking at the running backs this week made me real sad, but I chose Travis Etienne. I think he's been real bad, and I understand that. I know Trevor Lawrence is now hurt, and they're going to start Mac Jones, so probably going to gear up on the run. But I mean, the Titans looked like a team that gave up last week. Brian Robinson looked like the second coming of Adrian Peterson this past week, just running all over those dudes. So. Not to crap on Brian Robinson, but like they made him look far better than he probably is. So Travis Etienne, I mean, throw him in there, see what happens. I think he'll fall into the end zone.
God,
I have more Kenneth Walker and more Jamar Gibbs than I do Brian Robinson. So I only have 9 shares.
Oh, really?
Wow. That's actually surprising.
I'll trade you my B-Rob for your Jahmyr Gibbs if you would like.
Go ahead and give me a plus first.
All right.
Go give me your wide receiver.
All right. Calvin Ridley versus Jacksonville. Jacksonville is just dumpster fire. Will Levis really loves to huck it, chuck it football, baby. So we'll roll that out there. It might not be great.
It doesn't matter what team. Just
somebody comes
out there.
500.
That's like Jameis. Mine's Jacoby Myers. I started AOC. I'm going to go with Jacoby Myers. He's been really good in the last 4 or 5 games. He's hit 15 points per game. So even with like Bowers going crazy, Jacoby Myers has been getting his as well. So like I said earlier, the Bucs secondary isn't very good. So they're giving up the 8th most points to wide receivers. So feel good about starting your Jacoby Myers this week.
Here's one I don't feel good about starting, but get your throw bags ready. Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He gets the New York Football Giants, who are awful and playing for their quarterback of the future. Derek Carr's always had a deep ball guy. It was Zay Jones for a while. It was Henry Ruggs. And now it's MVS. He's got 4 touchdowns in the last 3 games, and
that's crazy.
They're freaking.
How's he catching these passes?
Kevin Austin. Here's
the gloves.
Check his gloves.
It's MVS or it's practice squad guys. Sometimes it's better to be the only show in town than a good show. Let's go MVS. Throw him in there. He might get you a touchdown.
Okay.
Doesn't matter. He's still getting targets.
Anyway, sorry, no, he is. Yeah, you're right. I'm shocked by the 4 touchdowns and that he caught the ball. Anyway, Kate Otten versus Las Vegas. Sorry, Spanky, but Raiders.
Oh, Vegas can't cover tight ends. That's money, dude.
Yeah.
You know who else can't cover tight ends? The Chiefs. I got Will Disley this week. They've been really, really bad against the tight end this year. They begin giving up the 3rd most fantasy points to tight ends. I know Will Disley had a donut last week. We scored as many points as he did, but I think he's got a nice bounce back this week.
I do too. I like it. I got Noah Gray. He's getting 5 targets over the last 3 games, 4 TDs in the last 3 games. Him and Mahomes seem to be getting a little bit, of a rapport going. I know Travis Kelce's there, and that's the one that everybody really wants to play. But for whatever reason, Noah Gray's been getting more involved in the offense and has looked pretty good. That's kind of a sneaky start. And honestly, the tight ends this year, if it's not Brock Bowers or Trey McBride, you're basically just like, well, crap, I don't know what to do. I guess Johnny Smith's been really good those last month too, but why not Noah Gray, right? He's been falling in the end zone at least, so
Austin Hooper's been good too. So this is how bad the tight ends have been. So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's like a top 12 tight end on the year. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's gross. Yeah, it's real gross.
You guys got anything else?
Sorry.
I got nothing else. I gave him my love for Brian Robinson.
You did. And Cortland Sutton apparently. And
maybe one day we'll get B-Rob onto the show. Maybe he'll feel the vibes coming out of here.
Maybe.
Wow. Speaking of
a one-on-one show, Holler and B-Rob, and
I have 12. All right, I have 12 shares of Josh Downs. He's my 6th most owned wide receiver. So I don't hate Josh.
Go get you some Cortland Suttons.
If it's a playoff team, I might have to do that.
There you go. Take a gander. Yeah. All right. That's all we got. Good luck in your matchups this week. Hope you guys make the playoffs unless you're playing against one of us. And then
hope you lose.
Peace out, guys. Thanks for tuning in.